I've really been procrastinating making this video. One thing we all have in common as humans is we experience loss at one point or another. It could be the loss of yourself and what you thought you'd become. It could be the loss of a friendship that meant the world to you, the loss of a relationship you thought would last forever, or the worst of all losses, in my opinion, the permanent loss of a loved one who you'll never get to see again. The reality is we all face this at one point or another, but me, I've been trying to run away from it. How are you gonna afford this?
You have to get that van down.
You have to stay busy.
This will be your first Christmas.
Don't think
no, just keep. You have to get that van. Don't.
Okay, finally think I'm ready to talk about this. So there was a time a few months back when Jay and I were traveling in our van full-time through Utah where we experienced great loss. Jay lost both of his grandpas within a week of each other, and then once we were done with his second grandpa's funeral, we were watching it over Zoom. I got a text from my mom saying my grandfather died. So within 3 weeks we went from having 3 grandpas to no grandpas in our lives. And it was tough. We were about to start a bus build. We didn't have family around us and we just felt sort of helpless. A plane ticket home was $1,500 round trip and we just couldn't afford it at the time. So we had to kind of just push that grief to the side and just focused all of our attention on that build. Gotta get her done, Jay. So the build that we were working on was for a couple, Kat and Cam, and they were going through a hard time as well. Cam was in the hospital. We didn't know if he was going to make it. Kat was visiting him every single day, so it just felt like everywhere we left there was doom and gloom, and in that situation Jay and I could not deal with the grief. We could not sit down in that discomfort and deal with it. We just were not physically able to. So instead we carried on, doubled up on our work. Jay was training all the time and we just didn't really face it. After 3 weeks we finished the build and he ended up pulling through in the end, so it just was this amazing feeling of being able to finish that build for him and Kat and just have this space for them to go to and finally just get some good news in our lives.
You guys, this is insane. Oh my gosh.
And we were just so happy to be a part of that.
After Utah, we headed to Michigan in our van for another build. I guess we thought that by having a busy schedule and traveling around in our van, we would heal our grief. And even though we had the most amazing time there, created a beautiful rig, and built a bond with a family that took us in as their own, I learned van life will not save you from your grief. No matter how much you try to run from it, grief will eventually catch up to you and you'll be forced to face it. It wasn't until we got back from Michigan a few months later and moved back to my hometown that I was finally able to sit with the discomfort and face the grief I had been putting off for so long.
The sort of first thing I did to grieve the loss of my grandpa was make a video. I find that whenever I lose someone close to me, just pulling in every little memory I have of them gives me some comfort. I'm obviously not an expert in dealing with loss or anything like that, but I just know that as long as you have these memories of those people you've lost, they will live on forever. They'll never actually be gone. I think once you experience your first major loss, that's kind of when you're forced to grow up in a way. You're kind of hit with this reality that not everything's always going to be exactly how it's been. Things are always going to change. For me, with tragedy comes a greater appreciation for everything I have and for everyone I have around me, and just knowing that anything that I have can be taken away from me at any given moment, and to not take anything for granted. And I'm extremely grateful for learning that and for understanding that, because it does give me a greater appreciation for life as a whole. Do you love each other? The reality is, none of us want to deal with the discomfort of facing grief. It's the same reason I tried running from it and procrastinated this video for so long. But the truth is, if you don't grieve, you don't go back and remember those who you've lost. My grandpa is my hero. When he was 24 years old, he met my grandma, who was a single mother at the time. He took in her and her 4 kids without hesitation and loved them unconditionally. When he wasn't being goofy and sticking his tongue out at a camera, he was the one with the camera in his hands. His humor and love of life rubbed off on everyone he met. With Grandpa, it always felt carefree, like being a little kid again. I'm lucky to have known someone like my grandpa, because he's the type of person who is impossible to forget. There's a power in remembering those we've lost along the way, because in remembering them, they will live on forever.